In fact, I did a book called 12 Huge Mistakes Parents Can Avoid. Risk too little. We're so afraid to let them skin their knee or play outside or whatever, all the stuff you're letting your son do. But I'm telling you, we're so afraid. I think we overprotected physically and underprotected digitally. I call it the Peter Pan paradox. Peter Pan paradox. So I'm trusting most listeners right now would remember the story of Peter Pan. You maybe saw the Disney movie or read the book or whatever. But if you remember, Peter Pan was a character that was quite magical. He could fly over the city of London and sprinkle pixie dust everywhere, and magical things would happen. The other side of the same coin was, if you remember, Peter Pan didn't want to grow up. He wanted to live in Neverland where boys don't have to become men. Now, I think, even though it's just a metaphor, it illustrates that something magic and tragic is happening in culture today, and good leaders will recognize both. So here's the data behind the Peter Pan paradox. Scott, I believe the age of authority is dropping, meaning young people are coming in right out of college. They know stuff. Your son, he knew how to do this thing on social media, and you're liberating him to try it out, not going, well, that's not the way we did it back in the day. So the age of authority is dropping, and that alone can be frustrating to a manager because they know stuff. They have intuition of where culture's going. They know how to monetize social media. They're helping their company with AI, perhaps. At the same time, the age of maturity in many of the 59 million is rising. So age of authority dropping, age of maturity rising. Now, this sounds like an insult. It's not. It's data. I have lost count of the number of employers that have said to me 26 is the new 18, meaning socially and emotionally, they're great with their cognitive, but they're falling behind. And so here's the takeaway. Listeners, you're going to have to listen more than you ever used to listen to that 22-year-old, but you're going to have to coach probably more than you ever used to coach to get them really ready for that teamwork that's needed. So that's why I'm hopeful. I just am switching gears on how I lead them, and I'm getting the most out of them. It sounds like you are too.
Yeah, I mean, look, we're all doing our best. I think something that I talk about a lot that plays into this, and maybe it's one of the reasons, but I think the role of a father has changed dramatically. And
Yes,
so when
it
I
is.
think back to the father and the fathers that I grew up with and all my friends grew up with in the 1990s, if we were in high school and we made good grades, we did what we were supposed to, we were not asked about anything. We did whatever we wanted. When we moved out, our father was like, great, go to college, do whatever, but you're on your own. And there was really, my dad didn't feel loss. I don't believe when we moved out, it was almost liberating. Like it's the next step. And there was this older relationship between man and boy. Okay. And so fast forward, now I wake up and I have a newborn, and my wife is a school teacher, and she leaves in the morning every day, and I'm doing the evening feeding and the morning feeding, and then I'm taking him to daycare. I remember driving him to the first day of daycare and driving through the parking lot of the court 3 or 4 times because I couldn't believe I was going to be turning over my son to some random people, right? My dad didn't go through that. So now fast forward, I've now been at coach of their soccer team, and I go to all the school events, and my wife and I have mutually raised them in a way that was different than how we did. So how can they have such a closer relationship with father that it also the good? And again, I know everybody doesn't have the perfect family, but those that do, there's this coddling to some extent where I find myself challenged a bit today, where you're a 20-year-old grown man, and if I were saying or doing the things you're saying or doing, I look at him sometimes, my oldest son, and I'm like, hey, you're a grown man, like you're 20. If I was your age, and he's like, yeah, but that's not how it was. That's not
Yeah,
how it is, dad.
yeah,
And
yeah,
so it's this unique flip that happened overnight because my generation of men wasn't prepared for
yeah,
this point. They
yeah,
just got presented with this equal opportunity mentality, and we were like, wait, we have to change diapers? We
yeah,
Our
yeah.
dads didn't
What?
do that.
What? Yeah. No, it's so true. In fact, I believe we not only have a new generation of kids on our hands today, we have a whole new generation of parents. The shift happened as far back as the 80s, but then it accelerated. when we became safety obsessed. Our children are not safe. And if you're a fear based parent, here's what's going to happen: you're going to risk too little, rescue too quickly, and rave too easily. In fact, I did a book called 12 Huge Mistakes Parents Can Avoid. Risk too little. We're so afraid to let them skin their knee or play outside or whatever, all the stuff you're letting your son do. But I'm telling you, we're so afraid. I think we overprotected physically and underprotected digitally. I don't think we did enough for some of the scams and everything else going on digitally. But number two, we rescue too quickly. I think bosses or excuse me, employers, managers are receiving maybe unready young team members because all through their life, mom and dad just rescued and rescued and rescued. Scott, in the book, I talk about the large majority of, well, it's not majority every year, but the large percentage of Gen Zers, they bring mom and dad to job interview. Bring in mom and dad. Mom's out in the car ready to come in and negotiate the compensation package. So, and then raving too easily. That was my third. I think sometimes we tell them they're awesome for putting the fork in the dishwasher. And I'm going, you put the fork, we all put the fork in the, that's what we do as a family. We're all wonderful, but you're not getting it a trophy. So I feel like we overcompensated on wanting to get it right when maybe the last generation, the dads weren't there, but boy, we got to help them grow up. And that's a mark of love to allow them to really fend for themselves and falter a little bit because it says, you know why I'm letting you do this, son? I believe in you. I think you're going to figure this out. So I'll stop waxing eloquent there,
No,
but
no, I
that's a
love it.
huge
I
difference.
think I think it's
Yeah,
interesting because I could
yeah,
see sometimes parents being so over the top
yeah,
that they think they're helping, but what they're really doing is they're also creating dependency of
yep,
themselves. I've been in wealth management for close to 25 years, and I could tell you that I've had parents come into my office when they send their kids away, and I felt lost when my oldest son went to college.
yeah.
My youngest son moved away at 14 to play for an academy for
Ah,
soccer, and so
wow.
he both of them were out of the house earlier than they were supposed to
Yes,
be. I
yes,
felt that same loss, but we didn't my wife and I still had our own independence, our own lives, our
yes,
own functioning.
yeah,
Whereas some of the people that have come into my office over the course of 20 something years, they genuinely didn't know what to do.
yeah.
Their entire
Right.
livelihood was based around their children. So their marriage wasn't fixed,
Yep.
their personal lives, they had no friends outside of their kids' friends. So it became a very difficult transitional moment. And I think that to your point, we have to allow them to grow up. And there's
Yeah.
one other thing I'm curious about as I make this point. I'm noticing that millennials waited so long. So you talked about the age of maturity
Yeah.
kind of increasing a bit. What's
Yeah.
interesting to me though is I'm noticing that this next generation is way more interested in getting married and having children earlier than the generation before them. The millennials wanted to wait till they were 30 to 40 to
Yeah.
start,
Yeah. Yeah.
and so this is a very unique thing that I'm hearing from my boys, their friends.
Yeah.
Like they're like, I
Yep.
don't want to wait till I'm 35 to start doing
Yeah.
this.
Yeah.
And that's another generational flip, right?
It
Because the
is.
millennials were like, we didn't have a career.
No, you're exactly right, Scott. In fact, you're sharing data. I don't know if you know this, or it's not just your observation. So Gen Z has learned from many of the mistakes of the millennials. We always do. Every new
Yeah.
generation goes, "Oh, I'm not going to do that." So there is a reaction, and I think it's a good reaction. There's more Gen Zers coming back to church, especially males who are longing for something for their soul, not just their wallet. And I love it because I think it's a sign of we're gonna try to right size what extremes we've gone to in the past. So I'm encouraged. But one more thing about parents. Based on what you just said, I feel like I see far too many parents living out their unlived life through their child. I didn't get to do that. I didn't get to play third base for the Boston Red Sox. By God, my son's going to play. And the son may go, Dad, I just want an ice cream cone when this little league game is over. And so we need to be careful that we're not parenting out of our own need for affirmation and ego and everything else, that we're really leading our children well, just like we try to lead our company well. So I'll stop there.
No, you're making a great point, and I think it's always a challenge for parents because you want to provide more for your
Yes.
kids than
Yes.
the generation than maybe you had growing up. And so there's certain things you want to do that are
Yeah.
similar. There's
Yeah.
other things
Yes.
that you want to do that aren't. And it's funny because my boys are both they both respect and appreciate discipline and tradition.
Yeah.
And so going to church on a regular basis every weekend, for
Yeah.
example, is something that when I grew up traditionally in a
Yeah.
Catholic
Yeah.
school, you
Yeah.
know, I went through that 4 years of college where it was like, I can do whatever I want, and
Yeah.
then I would feel empty, and I would end up in mass the next
Yeah.
Sunday, or,
Yeah.
you know, I would find my way back. They're not escaping it. They're more looking for that discipline and that tradition. So YouTube has this cool feature where they pick the next video for you, and it's right here on this screen. So I hope you enjoy this next video.